Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a summary of everything I read in May. Sorry it's so late, I've had a very busy June. I hope you enjoy. During May I decided to do Maas May and read only Sarah J Maas. I managed to finish the Throne of Glass series and I also managed to start and finish House of Sky and Breath, the newest Sarah J Maas book. So I think I did really well. And yeah, I'll show you everything I read. First of all, we have the Throne of Glass series, which is a pretty big series. I will go through and individually review each of them at some point. I have started reviewing them already on my blog, but we'll be here all day if I go through them all now. I really enjoyed this series. I was a bit nervous starting it because I love A Court of Thorns and Roses so much, and I've heard people say that this is better, and I love that so much that I was like, how can it get any better? I think I personally prefer the Ekatar series, but this was still really good. I know that it's recommended online that you read Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms at the same time. I was planning on doing that. I started tabbing where... That was a book falling over. I started tabbing where you need to like swap back to this book, but in the end I found that I was so engrossed in this story that I didn't want to keep switching back to this one. If I reread it, knowing the ending, I think I will try and tandem read both of these at the same time because I think it'd be a bit easier. But a lot of people are like, oh, you have to read it that way. No, I read them one by one in the order they were published, and I think that worked really well for me. My only regret is that I read The Assassin's Blade really late, so I think that's, I can find it, this one. I think I read this 5th and I probably should have read it 3rd, maybe even 4th. No, 3rd. So it should go, in my opinion, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, this, The Assassin's Blade, which is a prequel full of short stories, and then on to the rest of the series, because I found I was reading the main books and they were referencing these short stories that I hadn't read yet, so I had to be like, oh, hang on. And I'd stop reading that, go to Assassin's Blade and start reading the short story that they were talking about, and it just got a bit messy. So I wish I'd read it sooner, but overall it was a really good series and I had a lot of fun reading it, and I'm glad I finished it. It's been sat on my shelf for about a year now, so finally got around to it. Yay! I also started and finished House of Sky and Breath, which is the sequel to House of Earth and Blood, which, as probably many of you know by now, House of Earth and Blood is one of my favourite books of all time. I think it's my favourite Sarah J Maas book. So I was really nervous going into this book because how can a sequel ever live up to the joy that I had reading House of Earth and Blood? And I loved it. It was so good. The problem is that I now have to wait however long it is until the next book comes out, and the ending destroyed me, and I have to wait for the next book to come out, and I still haven't recovered. Like we're in mid-June now and it's ruined me. So thanks, Sarah J Maas. That's great. Really good book though, 5 stars. Would recommend. Finally, I also reread A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury. I didn't have time to finish A Court of Wings and Ruin or A Court of Frost and Starlight or A Court of Silver Flames, which makes sense because that's a lot of books in 1 month. But I am pleased that I got to reread the first 2 because I think these are the 2. This one's my favourite, but I really love A Court of Thorns and Roses. Oh, Lucian, he's just so sweet in this book. But yeah, I loved reading them again, knowing how the series ends, because there's so many little like tidbits of information that you're, at the first time reading it, you're like, this means nothing. And then you come back to it and you're like, wait, no, that is important. That's going to mean something later. And I love rereading stuff and finding that. It just makes it so fun. So I think I'll probably try and read the other half of the series later in the year, but I have so much on my shelf that I haven't yet read. I want to try and not reread as much this year. Otherwise I'm never going to get my TBR down. but I'll probably end up rereading these two again because I can't help myself. I also read the graphic novel Catwoman Soulstealer by Sarah J Maas. This is also a novel, and I did start reading the novel after I finished the graphic novel, and I actually found it too wordy. I know that sounds stupid, but I think it worked better as a graphic novel. It was a lot snappier, it got to the point quicker, the drawings in it were amazing, and I really enjoyed the story. But I think as a prose novel, it was a bit fluffed out and felt unnecessary. But it was really fun. I found this in my local bookshop. I had no idea that it existed, and yeah, it was a nice quick read, especially after the intense series of Throne of Glass. It was almost like a palate cleanser to try something a bit less intense and a bit quick and fun. I don't know if these are all in shot, but these are all the books that I read in May, my Maas May. It was a lot of fun. I think doing Maas May is a really good way to get through the Throne of Glass series if you've been putting it off for a while. She's just such a good author. I highly recommend. I hope you enjoyed this little quick video. I'm sorry my wrap up came so late. But yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you. Bye.